Today is the history. USSR has lowered its flag and changed it with the Russian Federation flag, marking the end of Cold War.
After the end of Cold War, the world became peaceful and prosperous. But on the other hand, peace is just a delusion.
Yugoslavia is the most treacherous battleground in the world for Germans. 35 were killed there in one night, more than during the entire Vietnam War.
After 4 years of Cold War, the tension in the East were escalated. The Rising Dragon have done more than 2 incursions to the Strait of Taiwan. The last incursion occurred in July 21, 1996, and it lasted for 8 months of battle. Taiwan were assisted by the United States. United States government declared the Taiwan pro-independence after the crisis, but China responded as a threat. The tension between US and China has begun.
And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Immediately, there's speculation or cause for concern. This is the World Trade Center that was the center of a terrorist bombing some years ago.
We're under attack. From our vantage point, yeah, clearly difficult to tell. We're under attack. What type of plane that is, but it's a horrific scene.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil.
September 9, 2001, the world was stirred by the biggest terrorist attack in the 21st century all around the world, years by years. US government has announced to invade Iraq and Afghanistan called Operation Enduring Freedom, to fight against a terrorist group that causing the world on terror after the attack of 9/11. Russia, China, North Korea, and the other former Soviet Union country agreed to form a new alliance to counteract and rival the power of NATO. They form a new alliance for to cooperate in the military field and grow the economy in each member, named Cooperative Strategic Treaty Alliances, and they were formed in 2010. They are consisted in 8 countries, specifically Russia, China, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Armenia, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and North Korea.
China had said it would achieve over 8% growth this year, and indeed it has achieved over 8% growth. Once the target was set, failure was simply not an option. China says the growth has been driven by successful financial stimulus and the country's
China and United States economics compete with each other. China economy were skyrocketed in 2010 and its GDP reached $6 trillion in 2010, while the United States $15 trillion. These graphics continued to rise until it almost beat the United States, till the cyber attack hacking Chinese economics growth. Chinese government blamed the United States for the cyber attack that occurred on August 1, 2011. But United States has clarified if they were not responsible for the attack because they claim to be healthy competition.
To restore the country's economic growth, and at a number of points the people rioted.
The new Cold War between China and United States has begun. They are competing who can dominate the global economy by using international trade, diplomacy, and cooperate with developing countries, or by aggressions.
It has been 10 days since Mr. Obama ordered U.S. forces into combat in Libya. Nearly 200 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched, more than 1,600 airstrikes.
Shells raining down on the island of Yongpyong, marking the first artillery strike on South Korean soil in more than half a century.
South Korea's western island of Yongpyong became a battleground today after North Korea began
the tensions
shelling the
between
island.
2 Koreans cannot be underestimated. North Korean artillery was bombarding Yongbyon Island on 2 p.m. South Korean think if it's just a drill in the border of DMZ. 4 people were killed, and 22 were injured. But North Korea not admit they also had casualties even though South Korea launched an artillery attack there. This event causing these 2 Koreans in the brink of war.
These are the scenes that triggered the breakup of Ukraine. Scenes that have brought the world to the brink of a new Cold War. Unarmed protesters gunned down in the streets by the riot police who were retreating from Kiev's Maidan Square.
What America is officially calling a Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russian troops spreading out throughout the strategic Crimean Peninsula.
Good morning, Dan. The pressure from Russia is growing.
In 2014, Ukrainian president were dethroned by its own people because they are too rely on very close diplomatic relations with Russia. Even though they want to cooperate with Western countries that better economy and affluent than Russia. Russian ethnic in Ukraine had to leave the country and gather in eastern Ukraine. This is where the rebellion of the pro-Russian separatists began. Ukraine responded by launching an anti-terror operation in eastern Ukraine, backed and supplied by Russian forces.
The mystery virus started here in the city of Wuhan. Chinese authorities...
The unknown virus were outbreak in the city of Wuhan, China. 70% of the citizens got infected by this unknown virus. This virus outbreak were caused by the leak of the biolaboratory in Wuhan by accident. China never do an experiment in there before, and China blaming the United States for spreading viruses and biological warfare to China. The world really criticized these 2 countries considering since they are in a Cold War, and both of them will accusing one another for the sake of world domination.
Assessment from U.S. intelligence tonight of Kim Jong-un's deadliest weapon. By early next year,
North Korea has fired a missile to the Sea of Japan. East Asia will becoming a war zone between 2 Koreas and Japan.
Tonight, the U.S. sending a message to North Korea in the form of B-1 heavy bombers.
U.S. responded by deploying their 7th Fleet and bombers to message North Korea for do not start provocate with any circumstances. Tension in East Asia has rising between North Korea, South Korea and Japan.
Now to the escalating tensions between the U.S. and China, with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi meeting with Taiwan's president overnight. China is accusing the U.S. of playing with fire.
The world's leading superpowers are locking horns.
Game on here. A trade war between the United States and China is here.
One reason China's spectacular rise sometimes alarms its neighbors is that from the Himalayas to the sea, it claims territory it does not control. Similar fears cloud the disputes in the South China Sea, where the maritime claims in Southeast Asia are even more complex.
Now let's talk about the Indian Army, which is saying 20 of its soldiers have been killed by Chinese troops in the disputed Kashmir region. This is the first deadly clash on this border in 45 years. Initially, the Indian Army said 3 soldiers had died and others were wounded.
West Asia has been the talking point this last week, but in the last week, the world's most populated country, China, and the world's 4th most populated country, Indonesia.
Hours of January 3rd, 2020. Shortly after arriving at Baghdad International Airport, Major General Qasem Soleimani was killed in a U.S. drone strike.
News from South Asia country between India and Pakistan. There has been a clash between these 2 countries in the Siachen Glacier, and 15 Indian soldiers were kidnapped. 5 days later, Pakistan caught Indian Marcos special forces killing their commander in Gilgit-Baltistan. Pakistan called it a provocation, and that afternoon Pakistan invaded the city of Jammu in Kashmir region.
There are growing tensions this morning between China and Taiwan.
Taiwan is on high alert amidst a series of military drills simulating strikes on Taiwan, said Taiwan's defense ministry.
We are increasing the risk with their efforts at destabilizing the region. This time, President has witnessed became their excuse to conduct exercises.
Oil has shot up over 200% in the last year.
The main difference between the...
The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main difference between the... The main differ
saw the Excalibur blowing up Russian tanks. These lethal strikes are not just
almost